Hello everybody, it's Spirit, and thanks so much for tuning in to my channel. Today we're going to talk about 11 helpful tips for applying for teacher disability retirement through the public school system. So I'm not sure what state you're in, but before we begin, let me go over some quick disclaimers for you. I do not work for any public school disability retirement entity and have no inside information regarding it. Number two, I cannot speak for all states, countries, or jurisdictions about disability retirement. Number three, these are just my opinions, my general tips that may or may not be applicable to you in your situation and your state's disability retirement. Number four, it's your responsibility to do your own research about your own state to see what it has to offer for you. And finally, I wish you the best in your search, in your journey for your disability retirement. So let's go ahead and get started. So what exactly is disability retirement? Well, let me tell you what it's not. It's Social Security disability through the government. It is through your school district, through your retirement system, the money that you have put into the system already. And basically what it means is if you qualify, you can get that money early. And it's through your disability, through your health or your chronic illnesses. So that's kind of how it works. So it's not the government's money, it's your money that you put into the system. And you have to qualify, you have to go through a medical board, and they will either qualify you or deny you to be able to get your money early. So that's basically what it is. Now, in my state, I wasn't able to apply for Social Security disability because I didn't pay into it. So in my state, we only pay into the teacher retirement system. In certain states, I'm sure they pay into the teacher retirement system as well as the Social Security system. So if you don't pay into something, guess what? You don't get anything out of it. So that's why I was not able to qualify. And I do experience chronic illness. If you're interested in my conditions, go ahead and take a look at my channel description, and I have some information for you there. So let me start out by telling you my story in applying for disability retirement through the school system. I had been chronically ill for years, and I just had to push through. I had to work, I thought. And so I was pushing through, and year after year, I continued to become more unwell until it got to the point to where I just couldn't do it anymore. And I knew I was about to break, and I knew I just couldn't do this. And so I called TRS, Teacher Retirement System in my state, and I called the lady. I was on the phone in my office. I shut the door. I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't tell anybody that I was unwell because I didn't want to be treated any differently. I didn't want anybody to know my business, so I hadn't told any of my coworkers or anything. But I got on the phone and I told the lady, I said, hey, can I buy some years? Because I only had just a few more years left and I could have retired, normally. And I said, can I buy some years? She said, no, I'm sorry, you can't. I said, well, I'm just not going to be able to work anymore. I'm just too ill. And she said, well, we have disability retirement. I said, what's disability retirement? She says, well, you and your doctor will fill out an application and it will go through the TRS medical board and they will either approve or deny your application. I said, well, send it to me, please. So I received the information, and it took me around a month to fill out that application because I wanted to do it to the greatest of my ability, the best of my ability. So I filled that out. I sent it in. It took about 4 months for me to hear back, but they did qualify me. So that was great news. And that has been seriously one of the biggest blessings in my life. So I hope the same for you. I have been there, done that, got a sweatshirt. I know what it takes to apply for it. And I'm going to give you some helpful tips to maybe you can win your case as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Tip number 1, select a doctor that really knows you, who cares about you as a person, who really wants to see you win your case. You want him to be able, or her to be able to fill out the paperwork with fidelity. You don't just want chicken scratch and this person to rush through. You want this person to take their time to fill out, because this is your life we're talking about. So you need a doctor to be able to do that. Also, you want the doctor to have some experience in filling out disability paperwork. Now, my doctor had tons of experience filling out Social Security disability paperwork. He had zero experience filling out my teacher retirement paperwork. So he said, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. I'm going to do the best I can do. But he gave me some tips on how I need to fill out the paperwork. And also, he definitely filled it out with fidelity on his end. So make sure you find the right doctor. And if you're chronically ill, more than likely you're going to have more than one doctor. And you get that doctor that you really trust and that you really have a great relationship with, who can walk with you through this process. Tip number 2, add an addendum to your application, because most of the time the lines are going to be small and they're not going to give you enough room to really elaborate about your situation. And you certainly don't want to be disqualified because of you didn't provide sufficient information. So I would do an addendum. You want to type it nice and neatly, maybe a chart or a graph or something like that. And also, you're going to separate yourself from the pack by doing that. Everybody else is going to do some handwriting stuff and just put some, typical things that they're used to seeing. And my thought is that they can't qualify everybody. They're going to put an X on somebody's application and you don't want it to be yours. So I would definitely recommend that you have some kind of addition to your paperwork and have it nice and neat. If you need to add charts, graphs, whatever, I would definitely do that and recommend that. Tip number 3, attitude in going into this process is everything. I understand that you are sick. You are probably going to work every single day. You're exhausted. All you can do is go to work every day. But I would highly suggest that you summon that energy. You ask God to give you energy. You look inside yourself and you come at it like you are your own attorney. You are proving a case that you deserve to retire early and get your money so that you can have some money to live on while you are recovering from your chronic illness. So I would highly suggest that you go into the process dotting every T, crossing every I, like I talked about before, creating an extra chart, making it seem like you really put the effort in to your situation. So I would definitely add an addendum, because they're probably not going to give you enough room to really be able to tell your story. So that's one tip that I would recommend. Tip number 4. This is very important. When they ask the questions, you need to be specific. You need to pretend, again, you remember you're that attorney. You need to, when they ask you a question, you need to think, okay, let me answer in that question who, what, when, where, why, how. Let me answer the questions in detail. Let me make sure that I am drilling down to the molecule to answer the question, so there won't be any questions on their end about what you are experiencing. For example, let's say they ask for your symptoms and you put, I have a headache. Now, yes, is it true that you have a headache? Yes. But if you just put, I have a headache, that is not specific enough in my opinion, because everybody's going to put headache down on their list. So instead of saying headache, you can say something like this. After looking at my computer screen at work for an hour, I develop a searing migraine, which is not relieved by medication. My vision becomes blurry and I become nauseous, unable to stand. I become incapable of doing my job and must leave work early. So that's an example of something that you can put. Now, I just threw some things in there. Don't lie on your application. Be completely honest, but just tell the truth and tell it like it is. And if you have a migraine, more than likely you do have blurry vision, etc., etc. So I'll be very specific in every question they ask. You try to be as specific as possible. Remember, you are your own attorney. Tip number 5. I would give a bit of personal information that they did not ask for. You want to, again, separate yourself from the pack, and you want them to see you as a person and not an application. So what I would do is put a little personal touch on your story. Give them a little bit of story. You don't want to give them a novel, but give them a little bit of story. For example, you may be a single parent and you're struggling with a chronic health situation. So that can maybe add to your case or give you a little bit of, personality as they read your application. Or maybe you are your parent's caretaker. And that was my situation. I was my parent's caretaker, my mother's caretaker. And I was also experiencing chronic illness. That was my case. Perhaps you had perfect attendance until you developed chronic illness. Or maybe you're single and you have no other financial support. So just tell them something that gives them some idea about what you're experiencing and how chronic illness has affected your life. And as you fill out the application, you're going to talk about how chronic illness is affecting your job and how your job is affecting your chronic illness. So you want to weave all that in to separate yourself and to make yourself distinctive from everyone else. Number 6. Now here are some things to note. Number 6. Your check will be less than it would have been had you completed your entire work stint through regular retirement. You're going to have less money because you worked fewer years. So you just have to be okay with that. And if you're chronically ill, it doesn't matter because you can't work. So it doesn't matter, but that's just something to keep in mind is your check is going to be smaller. But there are some things that you can potentially do, even having chronic illness. There's some ways that you can make a little extra money to kind of balance that out. So that's a whole nother video. Tip number 7. If you have the your age plus your years of experience in working in the school district, if that equals the number that makes you allowed to retire, then go ahead and retire. I mean, I talked to some people who were trying to go for disability retirement when they already have the years. Just retire. And for some reason, teachers will be old and they're sick and they're trying to hold on to this job. Let it go. Let the job go. Go ahead, put in your retirement paper and just go ahead and retire. It is not worth your health having to deal with these kids and all the stress that we know educators have to deal with. So go ahead. If you can retire, go ahead and retire. Because you're not going to qualify anyway because you already can retire. Number 9. Qualifying for disability retirement is, again, I'm reiterating this is your own money. This is not the state's money, and you have saved it over the course of years that you have worked. So this is your money, and you deserve to get your money early if you were chronically ill and you need it to live off of. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to feel guilty, feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm qualified. Tip number 10. You need to check with your local, your school district or your retirement entity to see how many years that you must have put into the system in order to apply for disability retirement. So for example, if you only worked 1 year, you're probably not going to be able to qualify. Whereas in my state, it's 10 years. You at least have to put in 10 years in order to apply for disability retirement. And tip number 11, just a reiteration that this is not Social Security disability. People really get that mixed up. Social Security disability is through the government, and you had to have paid into it to get out of it. So if you didn't pay into it, you don't get a Social Security check if you didn't pay into it, unless I'm misunderstanding something. But I know that in my state, teachers or educators only paid into the teacher retirement system. We did not pay into the teacher retirement system and paid into the Social Security system. In your state, perhaps you did, but I just want to reiterate that. So those are my 11 tips to applying for disability as a chronically ill educator. Now, you may not need this information, but maybe there's somebody that you know who could really use the help. I really needed it. I Googled, I YouTubed to try to find somebody who had been through the situation who could give me some tips. And so I couldn't find anybody. So guess what? Here I am. I'm here to be of a support to you. If you have any questions, please leave the comments in the box below, and I'll make sure that I'll try to get back with you as soon as possible. But I want to say that I understand what it feels like to experience chronic illness and to have to struggle and go to work, and you want to finish out your work tenure, you want to finish out, you want to retire, you want to work, and your body is saying no, you need to rest and you need to heal. So that's what this channel is all about. Healing from chronic illness and living your best life. So I really wish you the best in applying if you decide to do that. If you have any questions, again, go ahead and pop it in the box below. Thanks so much for watching, and may God bless you always, and always God bless. See you next time. Bye.